Welcome to today's continuation of this all-puzzle superworld by Seanhip2. This is video segment number 10, and we're picking up directly where we left off in the previous stream yesterday, playing the same puzzle, in fact, a penultimate puzzle, number 20 out of 21, which we figured out steadily most of the way until we hit what seemed to be the final trick or final complication, and promptly got stuck on it for several hours. And predictably, as it so happens very often with puzzles, the moment I logged off and decided to call it a stream, within about 5 minutes, I had figured out something that I want to try, which I think actually fixes the problem that we were looking at. So, with any luck, if that idea works, we should be able to clear this and get to the final puzzle of the set today. Who knows, there might be some additional complication that we haven't accounted for logically in there, but I think I've solved the problem. So let's get right back into it. And I'll try to explain by doing, this is Knock Knock Puzzle. You have to defeat 3 munchers, and I, as I said, figured out what I was doing wrong, and the assumption that we made that was fairly poor. So the trick to this puzzle is that you have 3 munchers. You have this one over here, and if you look at the other triangle shapes on the tracks in the top middle and the top right, that was where large munchers are currently being spawn blocked, and you need to defeat them all with POWs. The trick is that for the top right muncher that is currently spawn blocked by a red state block as well as 2 turn blocks right under the score line, for that one we need to do a POW coin drop with a P-switch active, and if you do a POW coin drop, the POW is going to take out this muncher over here. The munchers do not respawn since they're on a clear condition. Because that happens, when you eliminate this muncher, you lose access to a bomb that drops from this door and typically is able to walk off the ledge. And when you lose that, then you lose one of the central mechanisms that you need to basically get back into this room and spawn more P-switches. 06i, you're asking, does daylight time mean streams are going to start earlier over here? No, today we're just starting a little bit early to compensate for the adjustment. There are going to be a couple of things that are affected in both directions in terms of when I'm able to start. The time will, for North America adopting daylight time, be largely unchanged, but for events that are dependent on other people's schedules, such as the Scrabble streams that I typically run in this slot, there may be some changes in the weeks ahead. So we will see exactly how that is affected. Regardless, as I was saying, the thing that we need to do in order to get through this puzzle is that this central P door over here is something that we need to get through 3 times while holding a P-switch. So a P-switch has to be active, and we need to be holding this P. Now, I figured out how to do that 2 times. And the thing that got me stuck for ages and ages and ages in this puzzle was that I couldn't figure out where the last P-switch activation was coming from. So somewhere we were missing one last available P activation. And if you're missing that, then what happens is that when you drop on top of the goal, the central key door in the top middle, you get stuck on top of the winged platform. The winged platform, as you'll notice, always stays above the goal tape. So if you get stuck there, you never manage to get into the goal tape. Now, I don't know if I'll demonstrate exactly what it was we did yesterday, but I'll walk through a few steps. So the first thing that I did in yesterday's solution was I would hit this to get our first P-switch. And then the reason that you hit that is because when you respawn back into the left side, that is what gives you access to the mushroom. And you need the mushroom in order to have access to the key coins, which we'll show off over here. Now, at this point, I have actually already made the critical mistake. That's why I had so much trouble finding it, is because the mistake happens very, very early. But let's continue to walk through what I was doing yesterday until I execute something poorly and fail. So what we did was we would come through here, And then the next thing, oh, that, no, hang on, I made a mistake already. Let's do this again. The next thing that I would do, I was actually supposed to take the bomb through, no, hang on, we already messed this up. Actually, let's walk through that again quickly. So, you see, the first thing I did, watch very carefully, you would activate a P-switch. Then, using the P-switch, going through this door and respawning through the door on the right side of the bomb walks the bomb down. It also spawns the mushroom up top, having released the P block up top. When you do that, what happens is that you gain access to the mushroom, and I forgot to get the key coin up top. I made this mistake many times yesterday, just forgot to tap it. The idea is then that you take the bomb, once again, through the key door. And that gets you into the off state on the on-off switch. The reason you do this is because until you switch on to off, you cannot enter the right side of the level because the blaster that drops in on the right side column blocks you. Now, watch this interaction. Whenever we come back here with the bomb, we're able to drop through the left side. The reason you need to hold the bomb is because if you don't hold the bomb, if you go through this door, you die to a collision with the bomb on the top left. So the only way to go through this door and respawn this way is to hold the bomb. Now, at this stage, what we did was we would come through here using that interaction once again, and then we would activate a P-switch. Notice due to the bottom right that whenever you spawn into the room with a P-switch activated, the timer on the P-switch resets with the blaster on the right side dropping in. See, you enter with the P-switch already down, the P-switch activates again. And this is the first of the 3 times that we're required to carry a P through the P door. Simple so far, it seems. And the next step that we did was this. This sends the POW over here, and hang on. Oh, no. Actually, no, that's okay. That's not relevant. We don't care about that bomb. The next step is that you need to do the coin drop on the top right. The coin drop requires that the P is activated, but if the P is activated, notice that in the top right, a P block is going to block the muncher anyway. So in order to get the top right muncher to spawn, you have to do the POW coin drop first, then you have to have the P expire, and you need to be in the off state. It's very critical because it means that you can't just cycle the Ps continuously. You have to let them expire at some point or you don't access the top right muncher. So to do this, what we did was we found this little trick. We would back in through this door, and then we would throw the POW before the bomb comes down. The reason you do that is because then you can take the bomb through here since you have no other way to respawn in this room otherwise. And then that gets you the second entrance into this P, which then takes you down here. So notice the state that has changed. 1 out of 3 munchers is down. That's the one that's on the left side column. And notice that whenever you spawn into this room now, the bomb walks off to the left. And so you do not have access to the bomb anymore. Notice that we've done the coin drop up here, which means that if the... Oh, let's be careful not to destroy this by mistake. That's what we did yesterday, was we at one point flat out destroyed an object by stacking them too perfectly. If you spawn into the other side with the P-switch not active, but in the on state, now you have access to second muncher. This is where we get into trouble, because you need to have P-switch active and the on state to get through this central column here. The solution we attempted to find to that was, and again, you no longer have access to the bomb. Now, to go through this door successfully to the right side, you have to be holding a POW. Otherwise, a POW blocks you. In fact, I can just demonstrate that without losing any progress. So the POW just blocks you, sends you right back. We've been using it many times to respawn to P. Because of that, we have to go above. And in order to do that, to pass over to the right side for one more POW, for the final POW activation, we need to activate the P-switch. This is where the problem we encountered was, because if you activate the P-switch, then you are not holding a P-switch into this P door, which causes an issue. And I'll show you what that issue is. Now, at this point, we can release access to the final area. And then if you have a P-switch active, then you can fire the POW. For example, if you step on this P-switch and take the POW through the central door, then you get blocked by the muncher, then you pop back out, and then you kill the muncher, and then you can go back through the door. So the sequence that we found was this. Step on a P-switch, step through here, get blocked, get back, fire, and then go back in. And then, oh, it didn't die. I didn't make contact. Oh, right, because I didn't wait for it to actually hit the ground first. But anyway, that's the thing that we tried. It did work when I tried it last time. And the issue is that even if you kill the muncher and release this door here, as I said, the problem is that you get stuck above the flying platform and you are never allowed to touch the gold tape. So essentially, I'm missing a P-switch because what we need to do is we actually need to have a P active and we need to take a P-switch down. When we take a P-switch down through the center, then we enter that door. In the on state, the blaster on the right side blocks you, then you come back and then drop on top of the goal. The reason that you must be holding a P at the time that you do that is because otherwise you get blocked by the P-switch on the way out, because the P-switch spawns on top of the P door. And then because you get blocked by the P-switch on this door and by the blaster on the other door, you take a death from being blocked on both sides. So basically, you must, even after fulfilling the clear condition, come down here holding a P-switch through the door. So I thought, okay, why are we missing a P-switch? How do we activate a P-switch and carry a P-switch if we're no longer able to use the bomb to give us the extra one? Here's the answer. Like I said, after I logged off yesterday after being stuck on this step for about 2 hours, maybe even 3 hours, I figured it out, I think, within 5 minutes. I knew exactly what I did wrong. And it's because I made a poor assumption that I tried to reconsider early, and I didn't reconsider it enough, which is this. Early on in progressing through the level yesterday, I asked myself, is there a way to not hit this block so we can save this P-switch for later? Because you need to have a P active in order to have a mushroom. And in fact, I'll show this the wrong way one more time. So if you have a P active, then you can't step on the P because you need to use this P to respawn into this room in order to get a bomb. If you don't have a bomb, then you're not able to pick up the key coins and the mushroom. So I thought, okay, surely the first step has to be tapping this P, because in order to continue past this point, look at this. In order to continue past this point, we have to keep the other P, because how else do we get through that door? So I thought, we're not allowed to step on this P. We have to activate this P. That was the mistake, because we know exactly how to avoid tapping that P-switch. It is the exact same interaction we use later in the solution, which is you start with access to a P and a bomb. And then when you start with a P and a bomb, you can then use the bomb to have P-switch pickup with P-switch active. Whoops, hang on. P-switch pickup with P-switch active through here. My mistake. And then you need to spawn a mushroom. So now you have all three things that you need. You have mushroom, you have bomb, you have P. And as a bonus, we've done all of that without having touched this block. So that strictly improves on the previous solution that we had, because we have one more P-switch activation available whenever I wanted. Notice too that this P-switch block would be destroyed if you tried to collect this coin by tossing a bomb, which is why you don't do it. We knew very early on that you have to have it just by being big. So let's try to continue the rest of the puzzle the exact same way that we did before. Exactly the same. Because we actually figured out all of the other steps correctly. I think. I don't imagine that there's anything else that we haven't accounted for. We'll need to think about exactly when it is we use that extra P-switch, because of course this is something new that we haven't tried. Notice that whenever you drop on top of the snake block to enter this room, that you lose access to the P because the snake block always beats you to crushing the P. That's why we have to do a few extra steps. So yeah, this is the exact fix that we do at the beginning, that you activate a P-switch, then you take the bomb through, and you grab another P. Now you have P-switch into P-door number 1 out of 3. We were previously able to do this twice. We couldn't do it the third time, but now I have the extra P activation to do it the third time when we need it. So we'll need to figure out when exactly we're going to do that, when exactly we're going to hit the extra P below the left side blaster. But we do have that available now, and that's the important thing. Okay, never mind that bomb. We're going to do P into POW and then into the bomb drop in order to do the coin drop. Again, we fired the POW without killing the bomb. Then we used the bomb to reload into this room. P-switch is still active. Then we have P-switch into P-door number 2. And then we need to be careful not to hit the on-off switch because that'll kill the POW since it's on top of a state block that is currently empty in the off state. It's a red state block. Okay, so now we do the same thing as before. We take the POW over to the left side, and then we can kill Muncher number 2, which is going to be the one in the top right. We no longer have access to the bomb, so there's no particular time pressure involved with it. If we activate the P-switch, then whenever we go through a door, that top muncher is not available if you spawn in with the P on state. So there's no reason to stall in the POW. We have to use it now. Now, here I think is a critical step, where we need to decide whether it's now that we hit this block. I think it is. Because then we can carry the P-switch with us through here, we can get another POW, and the important thing is that for the third time we will have P and POW available in the right side room, and we know exactly what to do with that. As long as I don't do it wrong. So, I'm going to hit this, and we're going to enter one more time. Now we're going to go to the on state once the P-switch expires and we get the POW out of there. And the reason is because that will allow us to have access to the last one. We know what to do with this, because we've done it a few times, which is you step on a P on your way down. It has to be below this P block or we won't have access to it. You step on that P, and you activate that P switch when porting to the left side. Once you've done that, then, first of all, P switch is active. Second, you're in an on state. Third, you have access to using the POW immediately to take out the top central muncher. And if I'm correct, once we're on the left side, we should be able to fire the POW, then grab the P that respawns, and take it through the P door with the P state active. And that should get us the clear condition for sure, possibly even clear. So let's see if this works. Step, through, then we throw. Throw, clear condition is down. We come through here. Now we need to go through the P door and reverse through it with the blaster block while holding the P, because if you're not holding P, the P door blocks you. And that is the clear. So yeah, the assumption that we had to correct was the first step of the puzzle, which is how do we activate the first P? Because it turns out if you save P switch that was buried under the blaster in the top. But later, and you still manage to activate the first P, that solves everything, and it solves everything easily. How our speedrunning friend here got 145 on this level, I'll never know, but unless they recorded it. But we got it, and now we are on to the final puzzle of the Super World, 21 out of 21, the final boss puzzle. Well, given how long the last two took me, where the last two took me a full stream a piece to figure out, like a full stream plus a bit of a rethink in between. Could I not POW drop to the P door? No. Because the... Are you thinking about the central P door or the right side P door? Because the thing is, you're obstructed by the floating platform, first of all, and also you have to use the POWs to take out the 3 munchers, right? So the thing is, you have used the POW at that point because you need to fill the clear condition to take out all 3 munchers. You have to have spent it. The only way to get back to another POW after you've spent the POW is either A, you have to be in the off state, and then you go through the P door. Or B, you are, well, if you're spending a POW, then option B is not available. Option B is you're holding a POW and you go through the bottom door. Those are the only ways to get to the right side of the room, right? And so because you're using the last POW on that cycle to take out a muncher, you don't have that available. And it's not there to help you. Anyway, I actually really loved that puzzle, despite how long we spent on the final step last time. I thought it was very steady progress, and in terms of the execution, it was much less fussy than a lot of the other solutions, especially a lot of the other final twists that we've seen in the Super World so far. So I think this actually was one of the strongest ones in a set, because it is all about just mentally tracking the logic of the level, and the final twist is actually a superb twist. So, welcome A Link in Time. Let me give you a quick shout out here. It's been a long time. I hope you've been doing well. The Super World is going well. We just got to clear very quickly that we were working on all last stream. I had a critical mistake. I identified it right after I logged off last time, and it worked. So we're going to be heading into the final level of the set now, after having worked on this for the past 2 weeks. I hope Mario Party was fun over there. And you've been busy with a new job since October, so less time for Twitch. Very understandable, but it's great to see you back regardless. So this is Enigmatic Puzzle. And again, this is the final one in the set. Okay, floating blocks are always a problem sometimes. Let's see what we're doing. I don't even know where this one's origin position is, because that is critical. It might actually be under the pipe. Because unless the seesaw bends low enough to get you through the pipe, respawning into this room through some other means might be the only way. Well, we'll have to figure out what's going on with the seesaw way. Now, what happens if you go here? What does that do? Nothing yet. So right now, I don't see an exit to this room other than the pipe. Unless, of course, the blaster on the left is blocking something. Blaster's not firing anything at the moment, and there's also a 2 Yoshi limit that's happened here. We actually want to restart this just to watch how things spawn in at the very beginning. Watch the block, watch the Yoshi. Block starts under the pipe as expected. Something also initially weighs down the seesaw here, which tells me I'm going to drop Yoshi here and sink him and see what happens. So look at this. If Yoshi sinks, then he raises the seesaw on the other side just enough. That means we need to take damage with Yoshi. But notice, yeah, if Yoshi runs, this block... We need to see if this actually traps him. Because I think the idea is that Yoshi needs to run down to the seesaw, he weighs down the seesaw, then we get an exit. The only way he's going to take damage is through here. Except, I need to send him down this way. And I can't actually get through here, which is a complication. That's unexpected. That this never lowers enough unless Yoshi is raising it on the other side. Yoshi needs to raise that seesaw. But then when he's doing that, how do we deal with the on-off switch? Maybe we can go now? No. We need something else to weigh that down. Yeah, Yoshi actually needs to land on top of the seesaw, which means we need to maybe lower it initially and then run him. Also, I'm no longer able to make contact with Yoshi here. It may be stuck. So yeah, I actually needed to raise that seesaw first and have Yoshi land on top in that slot. Oh, look at that spiny. That's what spawns in initially to drop in. Let's take a look at that spiny in the middle. Watch where it spawns. Right there, so we don't have a means to actually catch it or anything at the moment. So if we lower this first, and then take damage, and hopefully Yoshi runs on top of the slot and weighs down the seesaw. Yeah, the thing is, I don't know that he'll make that landing. No, he will just continue to run. That's not good. I actually did want him trapped in that slot, because then he would raise that seesaw and we'd be able to drop through the first gate. The second seesaw, when he goes down there, allows me to go through. But at least we're able to get out and try this again. So, yeah, this came up again too soon. I actually think we might need to weigh down the right side first. And then as that seesaw is coming down, then Yoshi would run down towards it and then get trapped in that corner. What do we hit this block to the left? No, because then you don't have a way to raise the seesaw. Can't be it. Let's try just jumping up towards this one. No, it's gonna be too late. But if we... Oh, actually, if Mario comes straight down after that, like you release the donut block, then you take damage to Yoshi, then you raise this. That may have some potential. Yeah, we lower that donut block first. Notice how many red coins there are in this one, by the way. You got 7 up top to consider. This might turn out to be something lengthy. Like a level with a hub or something. Okay, so we lower the donut block first, then we jump up and take damage, then I lower this. We try to get Yoshi to run over. Nope, not like that. He needs to get on top of the seesaw. So I raised it, or rather I lowered it a little too far. I want him to go down the ramp. But then he's going to deflect. And that might not work. Because I need Yoshi to weigh down the central seesaw, essentially. So there's going to be some interaction that we need to make that happen. I actually wonder if maybe taking damage on this bit ever works. No, you'll just fall right back down. Okay, so Yoshi keeps running here. But then... No, you need Yoshi to raise this seesaw all the way. So, in order to do that, you actually do want this high starting position with him. Because if you have a high starting position, then he's able to lower it further. It's just that this little spike is in the way. You need Yoshi to lower the seesaw, but from a high position, so you raise this as far as possible. And then Mario can run through it. It'd be nice to find a systematic way of doing it, but we'll see. Let's lower the donut block first. Raise this a bit. Oh, that doesn't get nearly high enough. Because I basically need Yoshi to stop this thing and raise it really quite high. So for example, if you're starting on a lower position here, actually Yoshi deflects on it and runs back. Essentially I want him to raise it really high. We just need a method for it. Because if Yoshi gets down into that slot, then he gets stuck there. No, that doesn't go nearly high enough. And regardless, this seesaw, even if it's pivoting like this, it's never going to go over that column anyway. That's not going to be high enough anyway. That you might need to have Mario be on this and Yoshi to way down so he gets pushed up to the ceiling, and then you have the ceiling drop. But we'll see. In Lincoln Time, you gotta head to sleep, especially due to the daylight time change. Yeah, very understandable. That's why I also started my stream slightly early today. Okay. So I think I need to stay on the seesaw and get pushed by it, perhaps. But if you get pushed by it, you can get pushed by it on top of this ceiling, perhaps. So Mario can get pushed, and then the ceiling bops him down. Then we have to bend left under the on-off switch. Let's stay on this column. No, Yoshi needs to actually raise this thing, though. So we can't stand here yet. We need Yoshi to come down and then push this up. If we can do this consistently, that would be great. Yeah, because we basically need to set this exactly the right height that Yoshi can run on top of it, And it's really going to be quite finicky. So if we can find a good way to do it with a consistent input, then we shall. I think you just need Yoshi to run on top of it, even in a flat position. That means Mario can't drop on top of it until too late. Nope. Got nudged towards that. Yeah, that's the thing, is that it's going to be really tricky to position yourself there. Because I was hoping the ceiling would drop Mario through the seesaw with a sufficient push, but the setup is not easy to do. Nope, Yoshi doesn't push it enough. Yeah, because this thing just never goes high enough. Although, if you just leave Yoshi in that... What if you just leave Yoshi in that position? Yeah, you can do that, except now you need Yoshi to take damage. And now you have an additional problem here. Actually, if Yoshi stands on top of the left side... Okay, so you need Yoshi to be in a running state, and then be trapped at that angle. Which means I need Yoshi to run, but then I need Mario to stand to press the seesaw as much as possible. Okay, that can be done. We press. Let Yoshi come down. That should work. Then at the point you just drop through and then you hit the on-off switch. Then Yoshi raises the other one and then you get up through here. And into the pipe. Okay, that's consistent and easy to execute. That's what we're looking for. And this is totally a hub level. Hence all the pink coins and all the pipes and doors. We can in fact see the other side of the hub. Yeah, reversible checkpoint. Key door and safety coin on the right, so we need to do 6 rooms. notice that the top middle room here is obstructed by the on-off state. Okay, in that case, let's just go through everything in order if we can. Let's do P first. So yeah, is this a 7 puzzle hub essentially? Or 6 puzzle hub? I think it is. Well, there are only going to be so many entities to work with, but minimalist puzzles are sometimes the most difficult ones, so can't really assume anything. So hard block up here. We still need to see what spawns off of the question block in the middle. That's going to be important information. In order to get out of this room, it looks like you'd actually have to come back out the door again after collecting the coin, but then you would need something to stand on. You would need, for example, this to break to drop the P-switch down below. And you would need probably the other P-switch to stack on top of it. If you stack 2 Ps on top of each other, and you've grabbed the coin, then you're able to exit. But then you've got a couple of P blocks here that obstruct you from obtaining a P-switch. Also, unless you have a P-switch over your head here in the ceiling, you can't actually go through that position. So you have to go thwomp first. Possibly you have to hit the P-switch, but then, well, you know what? Let's figure out what's in the question block. Jump. We just need to figure out what's in it. But then I'll need something else to stand on. Ooh, okay, that's interesting. So we cannot hit that. And we don't want to start over because, well, we're through the hub and checkpoint, so let's just remember not to hit start over, and we'll come back here and take a look again. I wonder if any of these rooms are actually interdependent. If you need to take objects between them, for instance. Or even have something like a P-state active going into this room. Because otherwise there's no continuation, right? Like you get the thwomp over here. But then you can't actually do anything with it at the moment. However, you go through here. Rather, if you tap that one first... Oh, donut block, that's interesting. Okay, because then you just need to blow this up and then you lower accordingly. It looks like the idea is that... Yeah, I see what it is. You lead the thwomp first, then you hit this P-switch. That drops the P-switch in the middle. The thwomp on its retraction is going to push the P-switch back. When it pushes the P-switch back, it's going to drop in here and it becomes obtainable. Once the P-switch is obtainable, you put it up here, create a ceiling. Then you drop down to the coin. The problem is that you will need the thwomp to be led ahead at that point, otherwise you don't have an opening. So, let's take the death here. I think I know what to do. But we'll see if its spacing actually works. Okay. Lead the thwomp, then drop P. Whoop, lead the thwomp. Drop the P. Then we pick it up. Oh, actually the P stops at that point. That's really quite important. What is the whole middle section even about? I think the pipe is supposed to be the exit because you can't actually double stack the left side since there's no way to take out the hard block. The hard block is just there to hold the P. So you do in fact need to pick up that coin, otherwise you don't have a way to get out of this room once you cycle through the coin here. Or do you? Well, if you jump here, you see the thwomp gets retracted. So you need to have the thwomp retract out of range of that jump on left side. See, this is out of range. That's how you do it. Because then you can get back out on the other side. So you drop the P at this point. The idea of a P obstructing some vertical movement is something we've seen in multiple puzzles up to this point. And that's pretty simple to understand. Now we'll lead the thwomp again. And then the problem... Okay, no, that's fine. We'll go through here. Problem is that we don't have a good way to activate the P here, do we? Because question block hits a boo, so you can't do that. I had a chance to just take this coin earlier, and we should have taken the coin earlier, because then I would be able to drop through it and drop on top of a P-switch, but then we'd get stuck on this thing here. Because now I'm stuck here, I think. Yeah, you can't actually hit this thing, and moreover, you can't jump on top of it when the boo creates a problem. So now we need to figure out how to get through this. Now, the thing about the boo is that it's here as a lock prevention that doesn't make you reset the entire level. So we sorted out how to get to the coin, we sorted out how to loop around with a P-switch. Now we need to figure out the sequence that gets you through the middle here. I also don't know what this block is about, because that seems important in some way that we haven't determined yet. There's something that this block is doing. So we know how to get the P, we know how to get the coin. Now we need to figure out the exact sequence of P activations that allows me to go through the center. So imagine that you're going through the center. You need the P switch to be activated. Here's an idea. Is the thwomp able to activate the P switch when it traces backwards? Well, we need to test something. I would ideally like the thwomp to be the one who hits the P switch. So I want to see if this works. What if the P switch is in this spot and the thwomp goes backwards? And does it activate? Yes, it does. That's your solution. Don't start over. Okay. Alright, we know how to do a pretty big chunk of this now. Let's just put the steps together. Thwomp goes here. And then, oh, nope, we needed to beat it over to the P. Thwomp goes here. Donut block, please. Doesn't matter whether I take that coin in the middle, I don't think. We better do it just to be safe. Because... no, actually there's a bit of an issue with that, which is... thwomp goes back. As it's going back, well, how do we activate the thwomp in the first place and still manage to get around it? I think you just need to have it do a partial retrace like over here. Then you activate it again. Then you place over here. Then you walk around. Yeah, that's how you do it. So let's, first of all, get the thwomp to go back even further. Set a range. Lower this. Get the coin. Now we activate the thwomp again. And then... actually, at that interaction, that would have worked already. Let's... have it retrace. Don't jump. Activate. Wait for it to expire, then you go through, and then that's one room down. Okay. Do we care about a 1-up? Probably not. We'll see. Let's do one half at a time first. We know that we can't get to this room until an on-off toggle anyway, so... let's just do everything on this side first. Next, let's do the mushroom, or the mushroom room, one of the two. Mushroom, wait, let's spawn in again. Watch the spawning position. Watch the spawning position of the mushroom. It comes down off the top right, and it sinks. The idea here is that the mushroom needs to bust through the yellow turn block in the middle, and until it does that, you're not able to go down. The Goomba here, it blocks off the middle. We better see. Because if you lower it, it's going to walk. But then you can kick it so it flips to a certain position. We would need the flip somehow. Also, spin jump just kills it, which is not what we want. Also, hype just exits without taking the coin, which I wonder if actually this is useful. It is not. So again, I wonder if there is any interaction between rooms that might wind up being critical. But we'll see. Clearly, if you overturn the Goomba, lower both of these, then you can walk it over and have it bounce up. Now, why would you want to do that? Because if it is walking over the top by the mushroom, then you take the mushroom, you spin jump, and then as you bounce off the central block, maybe if you spin jump into a Goomba that's overhead and you take damage with the mushroom, then that will preclude you from blowing up the bottom block. Oh, whoops. Let's not restart. Yeah, the idea is that you spin jump, but then you do it in a way such that the Goomba is walking over your head and you take damage on it. And that way you don't blow up the bottom block as well. Okay, so you do this. The idea is you spin jump and then hit the Goomba immediately after the spin jump, and hopefully the deflection will work. Oh, it didn't flip high enough. That's okay, we just need to go back. Problem is, I have the mushroom prematurely. Let's take damage. Let me just figure this out quickly to figure out how to flip the Goomba properly. Because maybe you need to jump up and then you deflect it again, like right here. Let's let it jump, and then let's see if it deflects to the right one spot. Nope. Sends you up. You need to practice this until it works. But does it ever flip up at all? It's going to flip up onto that spot, but then can I actually hit it from that point? No, it walks off. Let's figure out how to make contact with it to send it up. I wonder if this slide would be able to do anything for us here. It's like a slide kick. No, not really. Because you got the Goomba here, it's going to jump up. And how do we kick it a second time without getting bounced? If you're under the ceiling to the left. Yeah, we need to figure out how the kick is going to work. Because we need to send it up. And have it walk all the way up. It does jump up one slot briefly, but then it walks off. One slot's not enough. What if we stand here? Oh no, we sent it too far, hang on. Let me send it here. What if we stand here? Then it has no platform to land on. That can't be it. Because it's going to jump up, and then do we just try to hit it at this point? I think that's actually doable if we jump up slightly sooner. It's a bit execution dependent, but I think it's actually possible to catch it that way. Send it all the way. Yeah, you jump up towards it. Maybe we can catch it with a bounce. We're slightly short of the top tile. Oh, nope. Not quite. Can't catch it too early. You actually do have to let it jump up first, and then you catch it on the way up. No. Not gonna work like that. Let's figure it out. I don't know if it's something that I can just do by jumping, or if we need to figure out another interaction here. There's upside down. Spin still kills it. Okay, so we don't want to do that. Don't want to reset. I feel like the slope is important here, that maybe there's some kind of slope push that can happen to deflect it further. And we need to not kick it too far when we're doing that. No, wrong room. Let's take a death here. Since we've cleared this one already. Okay, so send it over. But then when you walk past like that, you kick it too far. That will not really do. Yeah, because it walks this way. And the thing is, if it comes up this way, it bounces you up again. So we can find a way to hit it as it's coming down. So we can keep it on the first row and then send it over to the right. Yeah, we can push it to the right somehow. Push it up one slot. You would need to get a jump on it as it's coming up very, very late. And that's not going to work. It's just going to hit. So there's something that needs to be done there. Don't start over. To kick it high enough. I'm thinking the slope looks suspicious, but the slope also just allows you to send it up to the right later on. So how do we send this guy up further once he's up? Or rather, when he's up, how do we get a jump on him here? Why don't we just stand exactly in the right spot? No. That's the thing, it looked like this slope might be useful, but it doesn't seem to be. You can get kind of... You know... Yeah, here's the problem, is that you're walking to the right of it, and it sends left. Otherwise, if it were coming up, we could just... the slope would probably just kill it, though. It jumps up a slot, then what do we do? I wonder... No, it's the facing direction. We need to make sure that it jumps up and then follows us, I think. Because I think there's a difference in how it faces. No, it's going to face left. However, the way that you disable it perhaps affects which way it's going. So for example, yeah, look at how it's facing its eyes. It's facing this way right now. It's facing this way when you deflect on the wall. That means that if we change its facing direction and manage to manipulate it... Well, let's see. Because you see, when eyes are facing left while it's down, watch. It gets up and it flips right. So we need its eyes to be facing left like this. I don't know how I could do that reliably, but... Then we need to step on it again, I think. Because... otherwise it walks off. And then we need it to face this way, because then it flips up and it walks down. I don't know how to do it systematically, but anyway, we bounce on this and then we hit. Nope, too soon. I'm going to do a nice light jump here and a high bounce up to the Goomba. Okay, so we need to figure out how to do this reliably and set up its facing direction, but its eyes are critical. It needs eyes facing left both times. I think the half which you tap it does matter. Unfortunately, sometimes we'll not quite get it because it's going to bump the wall, and then if it bumps the wall like that, then we can't quite tap it the way that we'd like. Which means... yeah, maybe we just have to walk it. Maybe that's sufficient. Maybe that's sufficient, because it's going to flip up and maybe it'll get on. It won't. We need to nudge it over somehow in a way that switches its direction. Maybe we do need to do the walk through here for a moment. Then drop like that. Oh, almost. Like basically we need to nudge it slightly over and then drop on top of it. Hang on. How did I even do it last time? Manipulate its facing direction. Exactly so. We run towards it like this. Maybe the way that you drop on top of it from the donut blocks might matter. Like if you drop like that, and you do like a red side drop here, it kicks it a little too far. Yeah, because you see it's ending up in 2 slots over every single time now, so we need to make it find a way to bump it over by 1 slot. I say doing this. Nope. Yeah, I don't know how to repeat what we did earlier, that's the thing. Because there was something I did to make this work. And I can't make this work a second time. I think I need to let it walk slightly first, then we drop on top of it at a particular slot. Like, we need to walk first, and then we drop on top of it in an exact location. Okay, that's good. Drop like that. We drop off the donut block. Yeah, we need to disable it first, let it walk, then do this again. Okay, that's good. Now, as it flips, we need to bounce right away. It's standing a little bit close for comfort right now. There we go. Perfect. And then we leave this room, as long as we don't hit the spikes. And we do not speak of this again, perhaps. Unless we fail to finish the puzzle today and have to repeat every room. I can't get up here. Is that actually beyond my jumping height? No way. No way. We just need to let it get out of the way so I don't jump into it. There we go. Of course not. But then you need to do this precision nonsense over here under the spike. And save that coin. Okay, let's do the third coin in the opening hub. Alright, so 1 POW activation releases both of the munchers. All 3 of the munchers. Currently, we're able to do what? Well, if you soft drop a POW on top of the middle muncher, then you're able to jump on top of it without having activated anything. If you activate the on-off switch, what happens then? That creates a way for you to go back and forth afterwards. So the idea, I think, is you lower the POW, jump on top. Currently, yeah, Blaster's getting the seesaw. And then this seesaw is being gated by the muncher as well. That tells me that the POW should actually be on top of the state block, because if you blow it up that way, then this muncher blows up on the other side. Otherwise you get stuck here. Actually, this is a big problem. Yeah, this is a problem because now... Oh, no, you can actually pass through. Okay. And I forgot to get the coin. But that's because you need to release the munchers first to get the coin. That's okay, because now we used a POW, and then we see what we did wrong after that, because there's clearly something missing. Which is that the muncher on the right side stack, because it's stacked on top of the blaster, does not release, which is a complication. But one that we will see if we can manage. Also that this seesaw would need to be condensed first. Probably... Well, I mean, the muncher's there, and then... It's a bit of a problem, because... You'd actually need something to weigh down the right side in order to drop you through here. Perhaps... Having taken the on-off switch, then what happens? We... Notice, by the way, that if you are finishing this room, if you finish in the on state, then that solves the on-off issue with the other room later. Let's redo this one. Okay, so... We're able to take the POW. Once we hit the on-off switch on the left side, then we're able to take the POW and walk with it instead of using it, and use it to start weighing down seesaws. Art Pop Rain, yes, I beat that level. So I actually logged off yesterday, and within 5 minutes I figured out what I did wrong. And I showed it at the beginning of this stream, which is that previously my strategy on that level was to activate a P-switch right away using the top block that was under the blaster. I should not have done that, because I had a method already later in the puzzle that we've seen many times to activate a P-switch without using that top center P-switch, which can only be expended once. So once I figured out how to save that P-switch for later, that was actually the only thing I needed to do. I just needed a different opening move. It was the first move that was the mistake, because I used a wrong P-switch too soon. No wonder I couldn't find that mistake, right? It was literally the first move that it was repeating every single time. But once I understood that was the problem, then things went quite a lot better. Okay, let's drop the POW on top of the left side of this thing here. Unfortunately, we need to actually get there accurately. So yeah, we're on the final puzzle of the whole set now. Also, I have a bit of a problem here, which is that we can no longer move this seesaw. Oh, yes we can. Yes we can. There we go. Oh, nope. Hang on. Accidentally lopped it off my head here. Seesaw tech, what a model of reliability. And yeah, I actually really liked that puzzle. I mean, I was stuck on the final step for so long, but the twist was great. And the way we had to work around the twist in the end was, I actually found quite elegant. So it's the kind of mistake and the kind of roadblock that I don't mind, because it gave me a lot of respect for how that puzzle was designed. We leave the on-off state because we need it for later. So now the problem is getting rid of the muncher on the right. Does it require additional on-off toggles so we can do something about the position of this muncher on the bottom, like raising it through seesaws or something? I don't know. Well, you can crush it that way. Okay, that's fine. That solves everything then. That's all we need. You pop this thing and you're out. Simple. Okay, the other half of the room is done. We also opened up the top one now. And this tells me we should actually do the on-off room first, I think. Just to preserve that coin as soon as we're able. Spike ball is going to drop on top of me here. It is going to slowly make its way across. And then the problem is that I can already see that the problem is that we'll get stuck here after a certain time because look at that, it blocks off the right side. So that's the problem. So I wonder what that question block is to the left of the spring. That's obviously relevant. Also, we respawn into this with the on state every time, so how come that room was blocked off previously? Well, anyway. So, yeah, it's going to come down through the claw, we know that. Do we have a way to deflect it? Well, if you have this state here, see, it's going to reverse each time. And now you need a spike block coming to the left. I wonder, again, if maybe there's something we need in a different room that will interact with this one. Because otherwise... Actually, no, you just need to change the order in which things are being done. That... Or maybe... Yeah, because the thing is, the switches are going to alternate sides every time. So this one comes out. Let's say you're standing inside already. Then you stand to the left or to the right of the state block. Well, you stand to the left and you just pop back out and you're in the same position that you're in before. That doesn't help. We need to find a way to deal with that question block, perhaps. Or to lure the spike ball down another way. Yeah, because if it bounces on the block, it goes fast. We should try to stand to the left here. Okay, so it just goes straight through. But you see, it's still going to drop through here on this round. And then you can now spawn multiples. And you can have them go slowly. Oh, too soon. Okay. Yeah, so you actually... So the trick to this room is to spawn as many spike balls as you can in sequence. And drop as many of them as you can in sequence. Now, in order to do that, you do need both sides to be available, I think. Although, let's spawn as much as we can. Good, then drop it. Can we spawn the next one on the right side? Only once it's down, I think. Nope. If it hits, and you can get to the coin, but the issue, well, no, then you run out. And you can get to the coin, but then you die. So, but then there's something that you have to do to maintain lots and lots of spike balls alive at the same time, I think. Because if you have one alive at this stage, then you're still able to get out. You just need one extra spike ball to be active. on that last pass. So you need a particular sequence here. For example, by spawning that one first, then that one. You have a, oh, nope, they ran into each other. That didn't quite work. Wait, I hoped. Spawn? Nope, doesn't. No, then we run out again, so never mind. So if the first two hadn't crashed into each other, I think we would actually have it. That's clearly a vital step. So after it crashes, we can spawn the right side one right away. We need to figure out the order. Do we do right side spawn first or left side spawn first? Right side spawn. And then, yeah, because it didn't get on properly. Then, oh, nope, hang on. This is okay, you can retry this stage at least. This step, rather. But then they're always going to hit in that order, which means you're not going to get the second spawn. So maybe we need to do right side first. Then left. I think I need the left side spike ball to get ahead of the right side one. That's the only way I see this working. Needs to get ahead. And not that far ahead because it'll crash. Leave it a little bit of space. Oh, nope, before you go that far right. You need to go around it. Now we spawn it. Come on. And then we spawn the next one after the first crash. And then that should actually do it. Yeah, just a slight reordering. It's actually fairly simple. Okay, and then we still don't know what that question block was in the corner. Maybe some kind of hidden one-up interaction, who knows. Anyway, let's go back to the other side of the hub. We've got 4 coins in the bag, we've got 2 rooms left. Interesting that this gives you access to the door here. We should do it now then, actually. Let's just double back through this. Okay, so there was a bit of an initial load in here to get all the objects in the right place. I don't think we're really going to be able to change anything with that. But a lot of snake blocks that look as though they'll follow the track passages, but we don't know for sure. You need a P-switch active on your way out the exit. You lower this platform. Well, if you lower the first platform here, if you're able to jump into the left slot, then the muncher comes down. And then you have a world of trouble jumping over it afterwards. If you lower this platform, then you've expended it once and you can't go on top. However, if we go... Yeah, no, you have to do it that way to reach. What is this? Oh. Hang on. I was trying to figure out the question block here. Vine, but it's blocked by the snake block. So the snake block needs to be released first, so you actually get to complete the vine climb up top. So we need to get to the top position first, activate the snake block, then find a way to come back down. Let's map this out first. So let's just see what's available here. That gives you a climb later on. That's important. You pass through here. that give you a muncher crush? It does not crush it. But that drops it. Oh, whoops, drops too low. I needed to stay on top. Because if you stay on top, then you can get through a lot of this. Let's redo this. Now, there's got to be some trick to this, because this looks like a surprisingly linear sequence that writes itself, and surely there's something we've already missed about it. So yeah, going to that room toggles the on-off switch. That's why instead of messing around with that, we got this one done earlier. So this has to be the first step. This has to be... No, we don't want to activate that one yet until the second pass. So this is already a mistake. Let's do this. And then wrap back around. Okay, so through here. This gives you the entry point here. Out this side pushes the muncher. We need to be careful with the snake block so we don't lose access to it. Oh, nope. I need to run with it instead of falling off the side. If we run with it instead of falling off the side, then we're able to spawn the vine up top and then create a lot of the passage that we need. Now, the thing is, after we hit the P-switch, we need a way to actually get out. That's one thing we haven't sorted out either. Because if you lower too many platforms, you don't have an escape route. One of the issues is the fact that the spring is already gone and out of the way. I feel like we actually need to obtain it somehow, which will require stopping it, which will require spawning into this room with a P-switch active if we can. For example, by dropping off this platform and going through the door. Because you can exit out that door and then come back in. But if you're doing that, then... well, you would need the platform still available, which, if we're going towards the P-switch at that point, it's not. Or maybe it is, because, you know, the muncher gets crushed, but then we're not actually landing on that platform. If we leave the left side platform alive, then we can use it as a door drop after we hit a P-switch. Then you would have a new problem, which is that a P-switch is active, but then the muncher is still obstructing. So maybe that's not it. But if a P-switch is active, then you're able to freeze this room and then grab a spring. Then you repeat this room in such a way that you take a spring over here and you can go up top. Starting once again from this state. So this is how we'll do it. We'll go back through here again. Yeah, the trick is we need to actually follow this snake block as it's running over and not drop onto that platform. Because dropping on that platform does kill this idea. But I'll walk through the rest of the interaction anyway. The idea is that at this point we take the coin and we hit the P. Oh, you know what? No. If we hit the P, then the thing is we needed this platform in order to drop in. In order to get to that platform, we need to get the extra tile of height off of the snake block, I think. And then we'd be able to jump up, lower ourselves. Maybe. But anyway, the idea is that we need to spawn into this room with the P-switch active so we can get the spring. That's clearly the trick. Okay, so let's try not to hit this platform on the way down. That's one little execution difficulty that we need to deal with over here. Do that. We need to follow this over. Good, so far. Then we need to fall into this and go back in with a P-switch active. There you go. Oh no, we need to get the spring before it's too late. There we go. Now, we up throw. Oh, I hope that was okay. Because actually, I didn't think about where we would take this afterwards. Well, it has to be here, otherwise we'll have problems. But then I need to take it with me onto the other side. Guess maybe if we drop here and grab it, that looks a little finicky. But that's okay, we made it. Now it's okay to drop the lower platform if we need. Because we need this snake block to take out the other snake block, that gives me access to the P. Once we have access to the P, it's okay if the P expires. No, it's not okay if the P expires. The P needs to be active, and we need to do the climb across the left side. So we need to jump back through the left side with a P active. P switch is active. We use the spring. The spring has to get me all the way up. The spring has to get me up to the falling platform. That means we still cannot step on it. We need to leave it in place. We also at this point need to hit this so I have a climbing location. At this point, we are able to jump up and do the whole climb across. Hit the P, jump over the top, and get out in 10 seconds if we can finish the climb in that time. Here we go. One more room to go before the safety coin. And it's going to be the bomb room. Bomb walks through the center. We're able to take it, but then that would activate the snake block. Not able to get back through this door afterwards, so we can't just hot potato bomb in and out of the door. But if you look at its initial position, I wonder if we can actually race it and catch it in time without getting the snake block. I don't imagine that we can, but we should actually try it. Let's try to race it over. And if we take a death, we take a death. Big deal. Okay, that's important, except now I've got a bit of a problem. Yeah, we're supposed to take it through the top middle. Oh, missed it. Yeah, because if you activate this, then you need to pick it up in time to dump it into the location that blows up both hard blocks. Nope. Missed. Now the thing is, if this goes all the way over here, then we would need to be able to get back down in order to take this coin. Otherwise, we don't have a coin. Which means that we need to figure out... Oh, you know what? But if you blow up the hard blocks, you can just cycle back into this room. No problem. You can just go back to the room, right? There's no restoration of the hard blocks. So you just need to think about this in a bit of a meta way, that as with the spring puzzle, you need to get back out. However, you end up with this blocking mechanism instead, where the munchers completely block you. And you, yeah, then you wouldn't be able to get through this. So actually, this does prevent you from trying to cheese it with the wraparound. Because there's no way through the muncher for the coin. Which means, but that's okay, because it means we blow up the first hard block. We grab the coin. No, then we can't cycle out of the room. So we need to figure out how to get back through this seesaw. It looks like it's above a semi-solid or something, that there's no weight that we're lowering on top of it. Let's redo this room from scratch. I'm thinking about whether there's a reason that we would want to leave the snake block alive longer. Given that at this point I can't activate anything and I can't get through here, I think the answer is no. But one thing that I haven't thought about is whether the blaster, when it's raised, would perhaps spawn something else that would be relevant. The other thing too is that it could be that we need a way to actually... Well, we need a way to load the bomb here without Mario getting stuck up here. That's the short of it. And I wonder if the snake block has any kind of push pattern that would let you sort that out. So the bomb goes over here. The bomb would lower the seesaw. If you... Well, maybe. Actually, I don't think it does. The seesaw doesn't do anything. And that was also much too slow. Okay. Hang on. Yeah, well, I mean, we can't do anything there. So this seesaw just completely gates you off. It's practically a semi-solid. However, notice the snake block pattern coming all the way down through here. The snake block can actually push you back down through it. I think that's actually how you do it. Because it does come back down, so you let it push you instead. Just stand here and push. Okay. And then get around. That's it, actually. That's very simple. Literally just one interaction, which is let yourself be pushed. Okay, so what's the twist? Because we're going through key coin door now. Now the thing is, I see no sign of any kind of anti-key death mechanism. I've seen 2 flags already used. So if you go through this door, I kind of feel like as the final puzzle, the final level here, that we have more ahead of us. Like this, which is a key death. And the key death gives you a clue up top, which is Mushroom Bomb P, Spring Pow Yoshi. I think that you need to hit the block at the very beginning of the puzzle, and the winged block at the very beginning of the puzzle might save you. But then you would still need to get through the ice at the end. I was wondering what the twist would be. But it is a key death, and as you can see, there's a fire flower that's on top of the on-off switch on the top right. We never also dealt with the question block that was in the spike room. So each of the individual puzzle solutions looks pretty easy to execute once you know how to do them, apart from maybe the one with the Goomba kick. I need to write down the order, because I think the order actually is going to matter. There's some kind of destruction that might happen over the course of the puzzle, as well as some things that are not exactly reversible, such as tapping winged blocks. And so you use the checkpoints to learn the individual puzzle segments, but once you do, you actually do need to string them together in one go, I'm pretty sure. Which makes me wonder how the clear check works from checkpoint. But even if you start from checkpoint, you can still do everything in the same order, right? So, but again, If it's clearable from checkpoint, I guess the winged block in the first room doesn't matter. But it looks like you would probably need to follow the right to left order up top, which means I have to write this down. In fact, I'll do it in chat. Because you need to do the 6 rooms in that order, and then I don't know. Well, first of all, you need a way to come off of here and bounce potentially off the spring by keeping a Yoshi. You also secondarily need a fire flower. I think I understand. If you are actually able to keep a Yoshi, I'm not sure how you would, because the only Yoshi that you see spawn is in the first room. Then, well, what if there's a reason that potentially you go back to the first room and get that Yoshi? Because if you get that Yoshi, then you're able to potentially remove the spring that was blocking that one question block that we saw in the spike ball room. If you remove that spring in the spike ball room, a spike ball can then roll over or be spat towards it, and then maybe that gives you a winged flower or something. But we will indeed need to reset the whole thing and figure out... Oh, except you start at checkpoint. Well, I mean, it has to be clearable from checkpoint, right? So let's do it in the prescribed order then. Let's hit this first because we need it. Also, on-off switch room is not one of the labeled rooms. The egg room, however, seems to be the introductory room. That might be important information in its own right. But the on-off room is the room that has the spring obstructing the question block in the corner, so it makes sense that that might be last. So let's go mushroom room first. Actually, I'm glad this one is first because this is the one that's probably most finicky to execute. We let it walk first, and then we drop on top of the donut block to pop it over again. Oh, hang on. Let's just jump it in this position. There we go. It's perfect. Oh, except I want to be here so we can walk it over. And let it wake. Nope, missed. That's okay. That's why I'm glad this is the first room, because this is the one that I'm most worried about when it comes to execution. But letting it walk left first and then bopping it in this column seems to position it accurately the way that I want, so we'll do it that way. Good. Then we need to hit the timing on the mushroom interaction. Let's turn its face first. Turn its face first. There we go. And we need to hit this timing. Good. Come on. Okay, next is bomb room. Let's hit this while we're at it. Okay, bomb room, now that we know how to do it, is easy as long as we don't slip up on the actual bomb throw. The solutions are easy to remember, that's very important here. Next is P, which is here. So notice that Yoshi's room is on the left and it's the introductory room. We need an object later that will allow me to go through that room and enter Yoshi's room after everything else has been done up to that point. This one has a few more steps, but it's pretty easy to remember. Let's wait for the donut block to come back just to make the passage a little bit easier. We will pick up a coin, since it does make a few things easier. Oops. Okay, now we go through to right. Then we do the rest. I'm thinking, of course, about whether something like a P-switch is obtainable in this room. Well, some kind of object later is going to have to get me back to Yoshi's room. That will be necessary. Then what we do is we can move this at this point, drop the P, and then, woo, that was close. Then we get out. Time is going to be a bit of an issue here, I think. Even though we still have things to figure out at a point. Spring is next. Right? We did mushroom, bomb, P. Yeah, that's right. Spring. This one takes a few more steps, and we need to be careful about riding the left side, but it should be doable. Moreover, getting the spring across that later platform was a bit of an issue, but we'll walk across and figure it all out. Let's grab it before losing access. Are we able to leave this room with the spring? No, we're not. We need it. You know, we might be able to. No, we can't, because we need to do the vine climb. And you won't be able to throw it all the way across. Okay. That's kind of ugly. Yeah, that's kind of ugly. That's a huge death, actually. And the thing is, if you do it at this point, not in one go, well, notice that the record on this is 3 minutes. But if you do this from checkpoint, let's continue to do it to see if this is doable from checkpoint, because if it's doable from checkpoint, that affects potentially anything permanent that was altered by the order of operations that we had following the sequence mushroom, bomb, P, spring, pow, egg. And so it would make sense to me that we have to maybe do it all in one go to follow the sequence. But then it has to be clearable from checkpoint due to clear check. But the only thing that clear check tells us is that it's clearable from checkpoint at 0 coins. I think. Let me think about that for a moment. No, I think that's true. That it only tells us that it's clearable from checkpoint with 0 coins. Which means that we may actually have to do a restart. But then a restart after key death at least saves you the trouble of doing the first Yoshi room and saves you time. So let's actually walk through the rest of it, just so we see whether we have access to whatever interaction gets us back to the Yoshi room, and then maybe we can actually still get out. Because the sequence that tells you Yoshi egg last is clearly a clue. And I don't know if the order up to that point matters precisely. But missing this throw here is obviously an issue if you don't know how to do it well. And that's going to be one of the execution errors that we'll need to be aware of that is very far into this level, if we do in fact need to do it all in one go. It's quite possible we'll need to redo the whole thing. That's okay, the other steps are fairly simple to work with. And all the puzzles were pretty easy to solve themselves, so... Yeah, but the fact that, you know, if you have to do this in sequence and you're doing this interaction this deep in, this is a really big problem. That's a little more obtainable at least. Basically in a drop off, and then, yeah, it's tricky. Like, you need to do a little bit of a jump at the end. I'm surprised that we did it on the first try last time. Also, notice the life count might matter. We might have to start being diligent about grabbing the one up, because we don't want to have a full reset just from losing lives. Let's do the push here first. Follow it to the right. And then P-switch, and then back in through the door. We want the P-switch as late as possible so we have enough time to actually grab that spring. Notice that you can have P-switch active going back into the hub. That might turn out to be really important. We need to think about whether having active P-switch going into the hub changes anything. Anyway, so yeah, this is the fussy bit here. I really don't know that I have a good way to consistently throw it across. Do I need to throw it across? Because if we lower the snake block, come back across, then I can just climb the vine and just grab this again. But then, no, because at some point you need to spring in order to escape the left side. Or do we? The snake block might be able to get you out by itself. So actually, let's try it without, because then we can... loop around. But then how does it make sense to do it without? We need to think about that. This is where the sequence might start to matter, actually, if you need to take a spring into the next room. Then you push Muncher. Stay on the snake block. Yeah, no, this is the issue, is that we needed to activate the P. Now the thing is, jumping on top of this snake block does let you jump on top of the falling platform, and then you can get out, and you can even grab the spring while you're at it, which is interesting. So you can, in fact, smuggle out an object with you. Now, at this point, though, we need to figure out what to trade that into. Because, yeah, the interconnections between the puzzle rooms do matter, as it turns out. We did the spring room, let's go to do the POW room, because maybe we can actually obtain a POW to go through the Yoshi door. If we use the spring as a weight object instead. Indeed. Well, the thing is, you do need to POW at some point to grab the Muncher, or do you? Because... look at this. If you load it over the blue, or load it over the red block, then you can actually keep the POW, and then the POW is what allows you to re-enter the Yoshi room. So it's okay to respawn from checkpoints up to this point, I think, as long as you do the spring room first. You will need to do the spring room first every time, even if you have the coin already, because you need this sequence to get up to Yoshi. Now, let's do the rest. You don't need to fire the POW for anything else. So we can actually just do this. You will need to POW as a weight plate for grabbing the coin. But that's okay, because it's actually easier to get back on it the way we've done it now. You leave the on state because you need it for the on-off that happens later. I think in the hub room, the automated swap from on back to off might actually just happen once. I don't know, because it looks like we'll need to do that room last. But we'll see if that's the case. Yeah, that room has to be last because Yoshi needs to basically open up the way for the spike balls to hit the question block on the left side. That's why. So at this point... Oh, no, hang on. Muncher needs to be loaded further up, otherwise we can't do this. So let's go back to the off state until we load the Muncher away. And then you need to use the POW to lower the seesaw so the Muncher loads on top of the seesaw. Okay, no. I see it. Let's redo this ever so slightly. Pin this down. I need to walk through it, so give me a moment here. Might even pin it down here. Or rather, well, no, it's even at this point. Which means you can just load it like this. We do need to exit with the POW, which we can do. But let's get it first. Time is a bit of an issue right now. Let's just get it way out of the way. Exit with the POW and then see what happens when we re-enter the Yoshi room. So yeah, we're actually back in the off state. Oh yeah, I needed to go back to the on state. That's an error. We needed to go back to the on state after loading that Muncher up top. But let's see, since we're low on time anyway, let's go back to the Yoshi room and see what the entrance is like. Depending on what spawns with the off, if it's a bomb down there, then it would switch back to off every time anyway, so. But in the Yoshi room, there is an on-off switch. Now, the thing is, if you spawn like this, the Spiny does not walk off. That means that the Spiny is able to do something for us here. Like, for example, way down the bottom area. We need to exit in the on state. We're going to run out of time, but when we restart the sequence from the spring room so we can go spring the POW. We no longer need to do the Yoshi run, I don't think. Oh, we didn't need to get that Spiny, though. Oh, never mind. Let's not lose Yoshi. We do need him. But... hang on. I have to do this very carefully so we don't die here. And then... except I don't have a way to drop Yoshi through here. Whoops. Because I missed this interaction. Hang on. So we'll need to figure out how to do this interaction properly. Because something... yeah, previously we were using Yoshi to weigh down here. Also, Spiny doesn't weigh down the right side sufficiently, which is a problem. We would therefore need a different way to smuggle Yoshi out of this room. I think it has to be smuggling Yoshi. It can't be smuggling the shell. It has to be Yoshi so Yoshi can release the lock on that question block that we saw in the corner of the on-off room. And this also gets you into the on state coming out. So you need to be in the on state coming out of this room. Oh, wait, but then when you pop back into this room, it turns off again. So maybe not. Anyway, you need to trade spring into POW. So spring room has to be first. We didn't see whether other rooms have something that you're supposed to carry forward through them, though. But the spring room is the first time that we've seen something start to interact with the other rooms that come after. Which is why maybe that one is a place to start, just to try to recover our position and go back to where Yoshi was. Also, hitting the flying question block in Yoshi's room seems to be potentially critical if it is what protects us later. But we don't know. So let's redo this one first. Yeah, so we don't need to throw the spring. In fact, it makes things worse if we do. Oh, whoops, my mistake. Well, let's just take the death. So yeah, it has to be spring. And then to the POW. I wonder if I should grab the coin off of the spike ball room in advance just to save time, but then we don't need to fuss around the on-off state as much later, perhaps. But let's just try to make good time on the sequence that we know first, and then we'll try to do the rest. So yeah, have to let this push first and disappear. Then we walk this over. And this doesn't matter yet because we're going to respawn into this room for the P. The active P switch here is still suspicious. Oh, whether we can use it for anything else, rather. Drop this on the right. Not too far to the right. And redo this. Give ourselves the climb. And the P switch. Now we need to have this nice and late, but have the platform still available. Climb across, and there we go. Now we trade into the POW. The thing about this room is that we don't need to care about the coin anymore. We can just leave having already obtained the coin as long as we weigh this down. So let's do this. We don't even care about the on-off state because it's going to reset out of this room anyway. So this stage, we raise this again. And then, never mind the on-off state, let's just get it with the POW. So that actually makes really good time if you've already obtained this coin. Then we go back to the Yoshi room and we'll have time to think about it. But we may need to go back to one of those rooms later to toggle the on-off correctly. I think we actually will need to reverse back to that room. Otherwise the on-off state is going to cause problems for entering the final area. Okay, so let's see if we can hit this first. I feel like that's critical. I feel like that's going to be really important. So now we need to figure out, you know, this over here. One-way panel, constraining the fall down here. But Yoshi being available here, wonder if an egg can actually be captured. You can use one Yoshi to capture the other egg. Anyway, before any additional on-off interaction, we need to do this. problem right now that we're seeing is that I don't know how to get Yoshi to the right side. We would need Yoshi to maybe take damage and get on top of the donut block. I don't know how to leave with a Yoshi, still. Because even if Yoshi's got weight over here, we still have a problem. However, we've hit that block. Hitting that block means that I'm now able to exit out the pipe the same way as before and then come back in. Then we would need to get another POW. Does that mean we need to do a double repetition to get the other POW? It might, actually. Because we hit that block starts under the pipe. Hang on. Because, let's see if we do this. Unfortunately, the Spiney's going to walk. But it does raise everything here. The problem is that we don't have a way to drop this at this point. We need to have that block come back. So it looks like we might need to do a double reversal to get... Whoop, hang on. Oh, no, while I'm here. I thought it would be lava here, actually, but... we need to do a double reversal to have Yoshi... Oh, no, and he's stuck. So that's even worse. Because I needed Yoshi to drop down below. But I guess we can just walk him at this stage. We want the on state here, I think. So the thing is, if we go back to the left, which requires another POW, then we're able to obtain Yoshi easily and exit with him. But it does mean a double reversal, because the thing is, you can only get the POW in this room if you have the spring. And so that means we need to go back to the spring room to get the spring, which means you need to do that twice. So we need to do this loop twice. Wow, okay. It looks like it might be the trickiest thing here. Because we're down on time, I probably won't be able to demonstrate this in time. But then at least we know what the sequence is. And that'll save time just from having solved it. Because I don't see a faster way to do this. Unless there's something in one of the other rooms that we can interact with to also quickly get us to POW. And in the POW room, well, yeah, we'll need to return to that at some point as well to toggle the on-off state one more time. So there's going to be a fair bit of repetition between rooms. And we need to do it quickly. I don't even know how to clear check would work, actually, given how much repetition there is between certain segments. I mean, we might be doing it a very inefficient way, perhaps. Missing some other shortcut. I see a way to do it, it's just that I wish there were a faster way to trade into each of the required items. And, oh, I accidentally killed the spring, so I don't even have the spring coming out of this. Hang on, so this was a massive mistake anyhow. Okay, we're going to take a death here if I can, and then redo this. Because again, we need a POW to get back into Yoshi's room. And... so, spring room first. You would need to be so fast for the clear check. And then, yeah, I should probably get that one up, but that's okay. Let's just do this quickly. And if we can execute this stuff cleanly, then we'll keep an eye on the time to see how much we're burning the clock. Which goes first. Rushing through this, of course, is just a recipe for more execution mistakes. But we'll just have to live with that. No, what did I do this? I need to go through the door. That was a mistake. Hang on. We messed this up already. I wonder if you don't need to get the coin here anyway, whether there's maybe a faster way to leave with the spring out the door. If, for instance, we just carry it with us through one of the platform drops once we've obtained it. But the thing is, that would mean that you need to circle around with it still, so you'd have to take it with you through the spring room, and that doesn't look very easily doable. If we did what we did the first time that we went through this room and throw the spring far enough that we can cross this gap with it, and then we can actually just drop through the platform and then exit the door with it quickly. But I feel like that's such a finicky way to do it that it's more reliable to play standard instead. Oh, hang on, missed. Okay. We need to drop through the door at that point. Let's redo this. We need to redo that room quite a few times, so we'd better get it down perfectly. And that's assuming that we don't really need to start all the way from scratch, given that I couldn't see how the other rooms would interact with each other in a way that would carry forward to this room. It's only starting in this room that things start to carry forward in the order, I think. Whoops, that's a mistake. That's what happens when we're rushing it, since we know time is an issue. We should really start picking up the one-ups. Okay. Okay, let's wait on this. Let it push. And then we don't actually need that vine yet. We just need the P and the exit here. And obtain the spring. Up throw here, and let's not kill the spring this time. Let's be sure to load it out of the way first. Then we need to prep the vine climb across. Again, we'll keep an eye on how much time we're burning in the course of this sequence. So you can get out of here at 4:20. Go for the power room. Coin has been obtained here, so we just need to get the mantra out of the way, which will be quick. Oh, except I forgot that I do need to load the mantra on the other side out of the way so we can remove it. And now I need to get rid of this. So we could do it more efficiently, but we'll be out of here. Total between the two rooms is 100 seconds. We will need to redo both rooms with the current plan that I have in mind with Yoshi's room. So we need to make sure we have enough time to actually see that through. We need to race that block, because we don't hit it, we won't be able to come back in. That was a little too close. Now we need to figure out how to raise the seesaw while we did it previously. We just need to lower this like that. Take damage with Yoshi. Go back down as before. The on-off state's not going to matter too much here. Oh, Yoshi, come on, go. Then we need spring and pow again. I don't see a more efficient way to do it. We're at 332 though. That'll burn another 100 seconds, and that's if we do it accurately. Maybe there's a more efficient way. This room is particularly mistake prone, so we have to be pretty careful with things like the snake block activations and not removing too many platforms too soon. And not confusing the two times that we're using this platform with each other. Now we get the spring. Let's not hit this block yet, that would mess things up. Let's load this out of the way so it's safe. And then we push over on this side. Now we hit this. Now we also hit the P and take all of this across. Now we go for the POW. Still 250 seconds, that's alright. And then same idea here. Just try not to touch that muncher on the way up. This is going to be a little dangerous, isn't it? Okay, still about 2:20 on the clock at this point as we re-enter Yoshi's room. Now, because we activated that block earlier, we should be able to stand on it directly, which means that we can go for Yoshi immediately. As long as we don't hit that spike, because that is really a concern. There we go. It would be ugly to hit that spike and take damage at this moment. So now we use the Spiny the same way again to get through the right side spot. We no longer need to use the on-off switch. Nope, wrong way, Yoshi. Okay, now at this point we're out. Also notice that because we have Yoshi, now we're able to use Yoshi to grab objects. I did not see a source of fire anywhere, though. That's a bit of an issue. We did see in the final room a fire flower located on top of an on-off switch. However, we need an on state, and we need to toggle things back to an on state. And that would be through the POW room. And then once we get out of this room, now here's the thing with the POW room. I'm on the assumption that we're going to spin the POW because we don't have the spring with us. However, do we have an easy way to grab the spring? Because if we can do that, the spring room kind of drops you down though. I'd rather not risk losing Yoshi. Let's just do this the long way. In fact, we just do it like this, quickly. And then at this point, The thing is, you do need the POW interaction at first over here to raise the gate. Then you just pop this buncher and get out. Now that we have the on state, we're able to get to the spike ball room. There's 100 seconds remaining. This is really tight on time. Now, here's the thing. I can't get up there. Because we no longer have the flying block here. That's unfortunate. Because we would actually need something like the POW, wouldn't we? Or some other object to stand on. Or... hang on, so we just reset that. That was a mistake. I think we actually do need the spring. So let's think about how we're going to get it, or at least get something to stand on. Because the thing is, if you have the spring and you bring it in here with Yoshi, then you're able to get the muncher out of the way, and then you can leave with the POW intact. If you leave with the POW intact, that solves a lot of issues. It gives you a platform. However, if you have the spring in the first place, then you don't even need any of that. You really just need something for Yoshi to stand on. But you need to go through the POW room anyway in order to get into the on state. But let's do this for a moment. Now the thing is, Yoshi can't really pick that up unless you do the whole P interaction and loop through this. That seems excessively long, to the point that it doesn't look plausible. We figured out how to get up to Yoshi, but we need to get Yoshi actually into the final room. And the thing is, I can't even dismount very well over here. Well, the slope helps. We're not going to be able to see this interaction with sufficient time, but let's do it. There's some kind of inefficiency that we haven't accounted for here. Here's the issue at this point. Even after we hit the P, I don't have a way to get across with Yoshi. However, what if I just jump across? But we would need to activate the P first before we do this. Now, the thing is, Yoshi is able to get across. Not here, he isn't. Unless we get on a donut block and drop on him. Push. And you're able to get out, but the thing is, you need to be holding a spring at that point. But then that's how you get out later, after the rest of the spring interaction. Unless there's a different place to pick one up. We need basically to be in the on-off state while Yoshi has an object to work with. Because without this block available, and we need this block in order to do the spring room, we can't actually get up to the on-off room. So that's an additional complication. I don't know if there's a faster way to do this that cuts out some of the repeated sequences. Because I'm working on the assumption that certain objects are locked behind other objects, and that we need to redo entire rooms in order to get things like the spring to POW sequence to cooperate. Maybe there are things to break in other rooms that we haven't sufficiently considered. Like, for example, what happens if you tap the P switch here? I don't know if that affects anything in other rooms later on. Whoops, hang on. So for example, if you have Yoshi with you, whoops, then Yoshi would be able to just swallow that spring from the right side. But the issue is that you would still need to wrap around this room and hopefully not accidentally crush Yoshi with the snake block or something, in order to get that muncher out of the way and lower that platform. Don't start over. That would be horrible at this point. But I actually wonder if we should take the remaining key coin in the on-off room and then take a death just to save time. It makes a certain amount of sense to do that. And I think I will do that. So you can actually have a save that's at 6 coins. and then you do the whole Yoshi sequence. I think actually we will. Yeah, because then we don't need to fuss around with all this stuff. Now remember, the trick to this one... So the idea is that Yoshi eventually removes this spring. And then we have a spike ball hit the left side. And maybe that gives you something like a fire flower. Whoops. Or some other source of fire to work with. Whoops. That's wrong. We need 2 off the left. Hang on, that isn't the sequence I wanted. But then we go, oh, no, missed it. Yeah, that's why we want to get that coin first, so we just get it out of the way. If I can remember how to set it up. You go left side first and right side, with ample amount of time between them. And then do you do the left side one after that? Yes. Drop it. Come on. There we go. That's how to do it. Yeah, because at this point, we're free to hit checkpoint and take a death. And then we can reset the timer with 6 coins in the bag, so we just don't need to deal with this stuff. I don't know how the clear check was done on time. That seems like it's going to be... If we looked at the record for this, probably a 7-minute clear check or something. The all-time record on this is 3, but then we know there's been another player speedrunning every single one of these, so... That doesn't tell us anything about the solution that we've found. Okay, so we've lost 70 seconds already, so it makes sense to reset out of this point. I am, however, going to inspect some of the other rooms to see if there's some way to shorten the process after obtaining Yoshi in terms of getting up to the other room. Now, we know that it would have to be some interaction that returns us into this room in the on state. We know that the power room gets us the on state. I don't remember with the first 3 rooms whether there was anything else that we could have done with those. So let me just work my way back. And then we'll take the death here. For obvious reasons. So with the Goom room, let me just see if there's anything to interact with that would have been valuable here. Notice that the spike blocks at the top right would prevent you, I think, from getting out of here with Yoshi and Mushroom, because the idea is that you would lose Yoshi at that point and fail to get him across. Because this room prevents you from getting Yoshi. That's probably why the first 3 rooms were sequenced the way they were, because you kind of need to make sure those coins are in the bag before you complete the rest. And I think that accounts for all of them. So let's take a death quickly. And then redo from this room. That's still going to be really tight on time, so. But it looks like we will, in fact, need some additional assistance to jump up with Yoshi, probably through repeating Spring and Pow a 3rd time. That burns 100 seconds every time, but the thing is, later interactions might be quicker just with Yoshi being able to pick things up. We need to find some kind of time efficiency. For instance, Yoshi just even grabbing the P-switch could make things quick. Instead of having to do the whole runaround with the snake blocks. We should have considered that earlier. Yoshi could just grab the P-switch from the left. And that would be the shortcut. Oh, whoops. That was a mistake. Okay, let's redo this. Reset the timer. Luckily, that was just on the first room and not on the second pass very deep in. Missed it. Whatever. Let's just get back into this. Okay, at this point, let's just redo this. And I hope we meet all the proper conditions for Yoshi to get through at the end, because the problem is that if he doesn't, then we would take a key death and we would need to reset everything. Because the issue right now is that we don't have a source of fire. I've been assuming all along that perhaps the spike ball hitting the bottom left corner of the on-off spike ball rolling room is what gives you a source of fire. It could be a winged fire flower. It could also be something like a Podoboo that's just going up and down in a column. The assumption is that it gets me fire, and I don't actually know if it does. Because if it doesn't get me fire, then we really need to rethink. Yoshi would get you over the grinder blade, that is the trap at the door when you take key death. Yeah, because Yoshi can just grab spring. In fact, when you just spawn into this room, I don't think Yoshi can grab the spring fast enough. It'll roll off too quickly, but you can definitely grab the P and then just reverse through the room without too much fuss. Now again, this room is a long interaction. We've already burned a little too much time on it. Okay, let's get through here. Get out of here at 407, which is slower than I did it before. But here, this is simple. Just grab the power and go, basically. Without hitting the muncher if you can avoid it. And let's just get this out. Take the power to the Yoshi room. At about 380 something. Okay, we have to race the block and catch it. We need to not sync with Yoshi. Yeah, that's fine. I actually meant to do a proper spit, not just a soft drop, but we'll take it. There we go. Load Yoshi over here. Load him back. And get on the seesaw. Get out. Then we need to redo spring and pow. I really don't know if there's a more efficient way to do it. It probably is, just given the time records that we see here, but we really need to not make mistakes in this segment and trade back to the pow. Again, P-switch activation first. I wonder if there's something that we could have done using the P-switch room to shortcut some of this stuff, actually. Oh, no, I made a mistake. That's fine. Well, I made a mistake that I can't recover from, and we lost 200 seconds. Because I didn't hit that block, since I didn't think I'd need it on this cycle. Okay, let's do this again. I have to stay focused here. Otherwise, when mistakes happen, they are very costly. We've gotten quite far that time, too. But yeah, because you're doing multiple loops here, you need to not confuse which one is which. Sometimes you drop through the platform, sometimes you climb back through the top. You cannot mix them up. And you cannot miss your inputs either. Leave this, climb, release this, and then this time we do hit the question block. Delay the P-switch until we can get some jumps going. Trade into the POW. This is the first trade into the POW. We haven't done the Yoshi room yet. Maybe it's more efficient to do the seesaw part first, because then you don't have to fuss around with the spring afterwards quite so much. Yeah, it's a pretty good savings. We're out of here at 400 seconds. I do wonder if there could have been something to get us out of the P room efficiently. Hang on. You know what? Tap this here. So we don't need to race it all the way as desperately. That's a much better way to do it, instead of racing it all the way across. This spike block really worries me. It's exactly the kind of thing I have trouble with. Step on this is Yoshi. Get across. And use Yoshi to get out. Back to the spring room. Let's not mess it up this time. If we can do this in 100 seconds again, then we're still in reasonable shape. Push this left. Then that's okay. We actually don't need that. We need to get it in and out with a P-switch this round, so let's not get sequence confused. Let's not miss that door. That was really a potential issue there. Wonder if we're doing too many steps somewhere, but we do need to get out of here with the spring one more time. Trade it to the POW one more time. Okay, let's not mess this up too badly. At this point, same idea. Let's not accidentally detonate the POW. That would be a pretty terrible way to mess this up. 250 seconds into the level. Straight into the POW, get back to the Yoshi room. After we get Yoshi out of there, we go back to the spring. And find a fast way to do it. Since we have access to Yoshi swallowing things. Wow, that spike ball worries me. Here we used a Spiny. We didn't even need to use the Spiny last time. But it does make this positioning cleaner. Hang on, nope, no. That was a mistake. I needed to slip over to the right side. Now I'm in trouble. Now I messed this up because now we need to... Well, now that's a huge mess. Because I don't have an easy way to get back in here now. Yeah, we needed to basically slide over as Yoshi. I needed to push Yoshi across and drop on him, actually. We didn't need to walk with Yoshi across. So that was a huge, huge mistake. Oh no, I hit start over. Okay, well. That's okay. Let's get 6 coins and take a death again. It's not hard. Let's just redo the whole thing. It's the first time I made a mistake today, actually, surprisingly. Given how commonly I can make it. And yeah, we need... Well, the thing is, like, this first interaction is pretty finicky in its own right. In terms of getting Yoshi to behave, so... And yeah, Hatsune-Tiku, welcome. That was... Well, exactly what you just witnessed. That's just how it goes sometimes. Drop Yoshi in there. Release him. And then we do the whole sequence again. But we just need the coins. We don't need to do everything the fuzzy way, necessarily. So, just to keep things simple, let's do things in the prescribed order. Oh yeah, this is the tricky one to execute as well. You kind of need to let this one walk over a bit and then bop him again halfway. I don't know how you get this clear check done in the prescribed time. That just looks tricky. Let's get out of the way. We get the Goomba to walk. This is always a little bit tricky to time, but we got it. Let's watch out on these blocks here. There we go. Let's do bomb room next. This one's simple enough. Next, now the thing is, we still haven't established whether we do in fact need to do all 6 rooms in order. But I can't imagine with all the repetition in the later rooms to reobtain the POW that we would have to. So maybe there's a faster way to get Yoshi out without using the block activation. Oh, actually, because we activated the block the first time through here, the Yoshi room will be faster to get through. We don't need to do as many repetitions when we start from the beginning, like that, potentially. So... time was still going to be tight, but we'll... I'm seeing how it might be plausible. You need to do 1 fewer repetition cycle, essentially. Oh, hang on. If you start in the original room. Because starting in the original room and tapping the block means you don't need to double back there later. Okay. We'll probably not make that time limit, but we'll see what we can do and at least get the 6 coins going. We just did a bit of a half-tile jump up top to re-grab the P. That would have been potentially helpful as well, but that's okay. This is going to work well enough. But I'm definitely wondering if there's a fast way to do this room if you have Yoshi to grab the P's across walls. Because Yoshi can just grab the P off the top, right? It doesn't need to be on the ceiling. And then if you have another activation past that point, I don't know. Interesting, though, that you have that hard block on top. Because if you're able to smuggle a bomb into this room, I'm not sure how you would do that. Given that the only bomb that we saw available was the one that was gated off behind everything earlier. If you blow up that hard block in the top left, you get a donut block in the top left that allows you to drop down to the door. There might be some kind of optimization trick using the top left corner of this room as well that we have not actually worked out. Because now that we know that there is an interaction between rooms that follows a particular sequence, that naturally suggests itself as a possibility. That whenever you see some element in this level that makes you wonder, what is this possibly for? It could be for some inter-room interaction that needs to follow a sequence. Like, for example, using something in the mushroom room to smuggle a bomb out. I don't know how you would smuggle that bomb out, though. I just don't see a path. And thank you so much for the follow. Okay, so we're back here, but we're at 260 seconds down already, so this is not likely to bear much fruit. But we'll at least try to get through the coins so we can recover our position. As much as we need to play through the whole thing here due to the accidental reset, it actually is helpful to take a fresh look at everything we've done so far, just as a bit of a review. Just in case there's anything like that top corner in the previous room that we wanted to notice. With a fresh start. What if you hit the P here before it rolls over? Does that optimize anything for us? No, it doesn't. It just blocks you off from the ceiling, so we don't want to do that. So that's going to get the push. Now we go through here. Then tap this. And then we do the climb with a P-switch activation that's nice and late. At this point we can trade into the POW. Even though we do need to do the coin interaction here at first. Yeah, using the spring, this might actually be relatively quick. Do we want to load the muncher up to the top corner first? I think we do. Just get it out of the way. And hopefully not bump our head into that. We don't even need the on-off switch for this, do we? We do if we want to have a quick way to deal with the spike ball room. And I think I would like to do that. Interestingly enough, so we're not going to take these back to the Yoshi room. I'm trying to think about which one of these would be more useful for the spike ball room, if anything. Neither of them are really useful for the spike ball room, but if we take the POW with us, then we can take the POW back out if we want to do a quick Yoshi room after that just to inspect it. Actually, given that we hit the question block already, that went to the spring room, we do in fact need one of these objects, probably the spring, to take us back to the on-off room. That's something that we need to keep in mind for Yoshi's sequence later. That you see now you have trouble reaching this, since this block is down. That was the thing we forgot as Yoshi earlier. So let's grab the coin and then we'll be totally okay with taking a death after that point. Or, well, we'll take a death here. That's okay, then we'll get the coin on that room and then we'll take a death again just to get it out of the way. Assuming that nothing in the sequence so far was otherwise strictly required. So you spawn left side first, then right. Then you spawn left. Give it some distance. Let the first one hit, then spawn left. And then run. And then that gets you back out. We'll hit checkpoint, we'll take a death, and then we'll try to do the whole sequence again. So we got back to where we were, what we were working on. So let me just find a spike to hit quickly. Okay. Back in business. Let's do the spring room first. And then again, we just need to not get the steps confused when it comes to when we exit out that door. It was actually a very important clue that this was labeled as the spring room, with the objects that act as the room signifying icons outside. Because that was the thing that made me pay attention to how essential it was to activate the P-switch and get back into this room, and that obtaining the spring is going to be a central part of the interaction. Although its initial position in the conveyor belt perhaps made that pretty obvious from the start. Let's not get crushed. Okay, at this point, let's drop this, raise this one, and and then trade over to the POW. Then we go to Yoshi. We'll drop below to race to block. Now that we know that below it's safe. Much better. We'll try not to hit the spike blocks on the way up, which is tricky, but... And again, we actually don't need to spine it necessarily, but it does make the positioning easier, so I'll do it. In terms of just getting the right height for the seesaw to already be down for Yoshi. Later we push Yoshi over here instead of riding him, so we don't accidentally... Oh, no, hang on. That's okay. It's Yoshi's weight that's necessary here, so the fact that we trapped him and have him on a run is still useful. We can still get out. Despite that mistake. Next is bring it in, POW. Again, that's not going to be another 100 seconds coming, but I don't see a way around it yet. Yeah, apart from not knowing what's in that mysterious question block in the spike ball room, it seems like we've worked out what we need to work out. We don't know what kind of twist is at the end beyond that, and whether you do need to clear from 0 coins, which is absolutely a possibility. But we'll see. I mean, whether, you know, regardless of coins, whether you do need to go through all rooms in sequence or just the one starting with spring. So, still a bit of an unknown here, but that depends entirely on what is actually in that question block. Now the thing is, later, after we obtain Yoshi, that's when we need to make sure we get back into the on state. And that's going to require the power room. And that's doable quickly, but that does require yet another cycle after Yoshi is back in hand. Anyway, let's do this whole gate again, just to get out with the POW. We're going to do that at 220. Burning a lot of time to do this, but then we're going to get Yoshi the second time. Now we use the spiny shell and we don't accidentally toggle it after that. I think, dismount and push for Yoshi. Just to simplify things so we don't accidentally tap the seesaw on the way down. You know, we could have grabbed the spiny shell on this side. I actually wonder if we should have grabbed the spiny shell on this side. We need to keep that in mind as we go through other rooms. That maybe there was a reason why we actually might have wanted to take that spiny shell. Just to simplify other things. Now, I think I might just be able to go back to the POW room straight at this point. But then we would need to exit with the POW. And we can't do that. We would need spring first and POW, so we need spring first. At the very least. If we can do an early activation of a P-switch, that would be great, but I don't see how we could. Because of the way things are blocked off in the P room. So while this will not be the speediest method, I think will be necessary. So, very, very important here. We need to make sure we have platforms available for when we do the P-switch reset into this room to make the spring available. We need to be riding Yoshi so we don't lose him. And that's okay. I think we can do it. We just need to leave Yoshi in this position here and hope he doesn't accidentally get crushed or something. You can even just get on top of this platform, in fact. Like, drop him like this. It might be slightly easier. Hopefully that doesn't create some kind of complication I didn't think about previously, like, oh, whoops. Conveyor belt just sent me coasting into that muncher, and there goes another 300 and some seconds of play. Oh well. Yeah, I was running off that conveyor incautiously, and then let's not start over. And then I just ran straight into that muncher while trying to figure out what the sequence to keep Yoshi was going to be. That seems needlessly complex in some ways. There's got to be a faster way to grab a POW with Yoshi. Which is, after all, what we're trying to do with that. I've definitely been looking at each of the objects that are acting as icons for the rooms and trying to see if there's anything there that Yoshi would be able to obtain by tongue. In terms of just being within tongue range. Just to save us a lot of this extra interaction that we need to do just to get back into what we've been thinking about doing. So the thing is, I have not even been able to execute the whole plan that we've come up with yet. That we have a very thorough plan, but we have not actually been able to see it in action. Anyway, let's get across here. And then we go POW. Now at this point, we know how to do it. I'm a little slower than usual right now, going into this room. Whoops. But we'll try to get the whole sequence together. Still at about 380. That's not too much slower. We've done it with about 400 on a clock before, but that was on a particularly efficient run. Again, we'll do Spiny. Again, the fact that the Spiny is obtainable again on the right is awfully suspicious and probably useful. Hang on. Here we go. We need to run Yoshi anyway. It's not really necessary to use the Spiny, as I was saying, but... Oh, hang on. No. Well, that was a mess. That was a huge mess, and actually we might lose this completely unless we gain Yoshi, and then now we need to do this the hard way with Yoshi. Well, just like we did with the room originally. Just burns a lot of time, that's all. Yeah, so we don't need to bother with the spiny, let's just let us go. And get out, and unfortunately we'll be down to probably about 200 seconds by the time we get back to re-obtain Yoshi on a second pass. But I do wonder how it could be useful to have Yoshi capture the spiny shell, and which room that might be useful in, potentially. I mean, one thing it does is if you have the spiny shell, if you have set the on-off switch correctly, then you can actually use the spiny shell to jump over to the on-off room. That allows you to skip the spring room, actually. If you use the spiny shell, you can go straight to the POW room to toggle the on-off switch. You still use the POW to get rid of the Muncher Gate, but then you are actually able to save a tremendous amount of time by keeping the spiny in this hub room here and jumping off the spiny to get to the top middle room after that. So I think that's actually the strategy. That's a big time save on the previous approach, actually, because then we don't need to come back to this room the third time. Anyway, so at least we have that in mind. That would be a huge efficiency gain if we can have it behave as intended. Let's just try to map that out. Yeah, because this room is much too fussy to do with Yoshi. I don't think we do it at all if we can avoid it. And no, I do have a plan to avoid it. Okay. One more time up to the POW. That takes you back to Yoshi. Yeah, despite this massive Baroque scale to this level, the actual puzzle complexity is pretty gentle compared to what was seen previously in Super World. At least so far, we never know about the final twists. I mean, technically speaking, the key death is the final twist. Or so we think. We still don't know what to do with the Fire Flower requirements just yet, but the fact that the Fire Flower was placed over the off state in the final room as a potential clue does make me think that preemptively we might actually want to toggle the off state before doing the safety coin. Maybe. Actually, I'm not sure. It was irrespective of the on and off switch. In fact, I don't think there was a clue either way. But anyway, we're here at about 180. We're going to get Yoshi. And so the idea this time is that we're going to not hit your head on the ceiling, and then we're going to re-obtain the spiny on the right side. I actually have a good feeling about it. You don't even need to roll. Soft drop would have been fine there, except it would get up and walk, I guess. Oh, you know what? Let's dismount to push. Just to be extra careful about not having seesaw issues. Grab this. On-off state doesn't matter at this point. What you do is you go, and then you go straight to the power room. In the power room, we toggle the on-off state. And we just used a POW to get out of here. And it's to our benefit that Yoshi continues to trap the Spiny because we will still need it. Except we need to use the POW here to open up that gate. And then we take Yoshi through. Now we soft drop the shell and jump it and get on top of the middle room. Hope this works. Before the platform drops, that would have been a terrible thing to deal with. Fire flower, got it. Okay, now we leave. Do we need to use the spring for anything? I don't know, but now we leave. Now, we are in the off state. I don't know if that will matter. I think we just have to go for it and risk the key after that's the point. There's possibility that there's something else that we don't know, but we'll just have to chance it. Now we need to jump off the blade as Yoshi, and then we have ice available after that. That's to clear. So yeah, the on-off switch on the right, I wonder what that was a clue about, because it doesn't matter, it just tells you the on-off state, but it draws your attention to the flower, and that seems to be the only thing it does there. Anyway, clear time considerably shortened by the accidental reset earlier, but that's the conclusion of the Seanhip2 Puzzle World. Fantastic experience. I always loved those puzzles that are kind of this connected meta puzzle. It reminds me very much of the Tetraterix or Four Wings style, if you know that. The last puzzle specifically, in terms of how you solve individual rooms, but you have to find the interconnection. That's a very similar structure. Kind of reminds me too of this puzzle that Teramis made for Tower Escape, which was the 7 one-screen puzzles stacked on top of each other. But again, it's the kind of connected meta puzzle that really makes it work. And in this case, the final puzzle, when it comes to actually solving it, I felt was very gentle, and it was nice to kind of have something that was clearly huge in scale, spectacular, but also easygoing to work through after the time that we had with the ones that preceded it, because, you know, we blew through so many puzzles in the middle of the set, and then we hit such a huge snag with both. This is not in the Super World order because of some of the re-uploads, but with both the Knock Knock last stream, which we cleared at the beginning of today's, and with, what was the other one that we had all kinds of issues with? Do I even remember at this point? Just Keep Spinning last time? Yeah, we really got stalled out on puzzles 19 and 20 of the set. But the important thing is that we got them. And thank you so much for the GGs and the clap, clap, clap in the chat. And you know what? This isn't everything that's on the profile. He put together these 21. Some of them were Maker 1 remakes, but some of them very clearly depended on Maker 2 mechanics. And some of the oldest uploads we'll want to go back to at some point. Some of these really popular ones that we have not played at all. That's... yeah, 8 puzzles that we have not done yet. So at some point, we'll probably come back to the profile and sweep the rest. Although given how popular these early ones are from 2019 and 2020, they're probably pretty well documented on video already, whereas with some of the ones that we've done now, I don't know if they have been cleared on video. I heard of the Super World when, at around the same week as the Switch 2 launch, I know Carl Sagan 42 was playing them because he's one of the main reasons that Seanhip2 is as popularly known a puzzle maker as he is, dating back to Maker 1. But as far as I know, Carl didn't actually finish this world on stream. I think he actually might have dropped it partway from what I was told, although I haven't caught up on any of the solutions that he had done. So I don't know if the others who ran through this recorded it. You can see that there is one person here who seemed to have sped through most of this, except Ged got this record over here on the re-upload. So clearly there was some kind of speedy, cheesy solution to a lot of these that may or may not be known, but the important thing is that in the end we did find our solution for it, and it worked out really quite well, I think. Definitely a few in this set that had mildly fussy or precise interactions, but then a lot of them had very, very interesting final twists. A lot of mechanics that you kind of see as repeated tropes when you do the whole set together, like using the P-switch to block a bounce on top of your head, which came up multiple times, and a lot of door respawning logic as is typical for one screens. But some of these were very elegant in terms of being designed for, you know, just understanding how to reshape the level gradually over multiple passes and reloads. And so I think we were very happy with this. The final puzzle was great. Knock Knock was spectacular, especially once we got through the final twist. And yeah, we had a couple of other favorites around here as well, I think. I'm trying to remember, given the order here, which ones were the ones that really stuck out. Where was that one that had the vine climbs? Growing Pains. Yeah, Growing Pains I thought was absolutely wonderful. And so a few that were just really big standout puzzles on their own, and just a great sequence to work through. So we'll end the stream with plenty of time to spare today, and we will probably come back to this profile at some point to clear the remaining puzzles, but I also have some other puzzle worlds and other super worlds and other delights in queue for later this year. We will probably be breaking off of Maker again for a little bit in the next few weeks, because I do want to get back to some other games, mostly of the side-scrolling action variety, although later in March we will likely look at some of the new Super Mario Wonder content, and we are still bringing back Donkey Kong Bonanza from time to time, since we have lots of unfinished business in Emerald Rush. But we'll have a new game coming later this week, I'm sure, and we'll announce what that is in good time, probably in the Discord. In the meantime, though, it's been great to get back to so many Maker puzzles, the most we've done in quite some time, quite a few months. And very satisfying even to get through the hours worth of sticky parts every now and then. We're happy to call it a stream for now. Thank you so much for joining me for this incredible experience. All the thanks, of course, to Seanhip2, most of all, for having made these levels. And this has been quite a treat for me as a player, and hopefully not too boring to sit through when it came to the occasional hours of being stuck on one step on the viewer's side of things. So, with those lengthy concluding remarks out of the way, thank you so much for joining me. We will send you folks off to somewhere else very shortly, and we'll hopefully see you back for more content, both of the Maker variety and everything else, in the weeks and months ahead. Until we meet at our next destination, as always, have fun with whatever it is you've been playing or making, or whatever you call what people have been doing in Pocopia, which seems to have totally taken over as far as my friends list is concerned. And as always, fare thee well.